John was working in his science lab, got blasted by gamma rays. Now he's Smash Trivia John, always smashing. He's friends with Ruffalo, in love with Aslan, and also some arrow weaving. John's here saying, hello my gamma friends, welcome to the show, the Gamma Analysis Podcast.
And hold. Smash.
Hello, my Gamma friends. Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Smash Trivia John. You can find me on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram by searching Smash Trivia. I'll be the one with the big old green head in the profile picture. This is the Gamma Analysis. Basically, I'm going to review everything Hawk, all the movies, TV shows, and I also do random other geeky films. Hope you enjoy. Smash Trivia presents the Gamma Analysis. I want to ask everyone listening, please do sign for me. Please share the hell out of this podcast with all your friends. If you don't, Hawk will be angry. Now let's smash right into this episode. Today's episode is a double review of The Specials and The Spirit with my friend Brayden. How you doing, Brayden?
I'm doing okay. How are you, John?
I'm doing good. But very excited to talk about these films. I had a lot of fun watching these films. I think there's a lot of really interesting stuff in them, and it's really cool getting to watch some more obscure superhero films. Because I feel like a lot of people probably haven't seen these.
Oh no,
Particularly, a lot of people probably haven't seen The Specials because I don't think most people even know it exists.
Oh no, I completely agree. I saw The Spirit years ago, back in 2008, and I was aware of James Gunn's The Specials. You know, I know he didn't direct it, but he wrote it, and Craig Mason directed it. And I guess even though there were some actors in it that I was a fan of, I love superhero movies, both whether based off a comic or original. Because The Specials wasn't on a major streaming service, unfortunately, I never had the privilege to just find it and watch it. And even now, when we got to watch it, it's on a very obscure. I do hope one day maybe James Gunn or someone can get the rights to it and just put it in a bigger platform so more people can watch it, because it does feel like a film that was buried in a certain way. But and then with The Spirit, well, which film do you want to talk about first, in order?
We can. I'm thinking. Let's go with with talking about these specials first. I really liked this. I was very surprised by how much heart is in it, which shouldn't be surprising because it's James Gunn, but it surprised me just because of how early James Gunn it is. This is the first thing that he wrote after Trauma, his time at Trauma, and I think that's a really interesting thing. There is levels where it feels like Trauma sort of thing, but also it kind of feels like in between in Trauma and his Scooby-Doo, which makes sense because it came out right between those things.
Oh, yeah, I completely agree. With James Gunn, with some of the films he has written or produced, very rarely do I not like them. You know what I mean? So I had a feeling I would like it. I didn't expect to love it. It's incredibly sincere. I love there's a lot of heart to it, and there's a lot of charm, and there's even some Easter eggs in it that I was kind of oh yeah, I can totally see James not being inspired by this or even trying to parody of this. Now, a good recurring gag in The Specials is them talking to camera, to the documentary, and even The Incredibles in 2004 did that with the opening of Elastigirl, Mr. Incredible, Frozen. But the first superhero project to do that as a movie, well, even though it was for a TV movie, it was for a pilot, was the hated on 1997 Justice League of America, which I'm sure you've seen. They're constantly talking
I did a
to
review of that a year or so ago, either a year or two ago. I thought that was definitely an interesting thing. I I personally like there was it was a time where I didn't love it, but also definitely did not hate it. I thought there was a lot of interesting things about it. And like I loved just like with this, I loved the idea of us getting to see the day-to-day life of a superhero team.
Mhm. Oh no, no, yeah, yeah. I get that. And with the specials, I love because it doesn't have a big budget, so obviously they have to be creative with what they can do. Like literally the effects for the characters, the characters' powers we don't see until like a minute before the movie's over. But I can't complain because there's just so much funny dialogue and great
Yeah.
character personalities. And I even as a comic book fan, superhero fan, we're so used to seeing impressive superhero layers on a budgets of like 200 million, 50 million, whatever. So on a budget of, I think we had a budget of like 1 million under probably. So
Oh,
them just having a house, a regular house, not even a mansion, just a house for a home actually sells the idea of this being a very, very dysfunctional family
mm.
or roommates spending time together. And even like the costumes, they're not they feel like fitting for everyone. Like this is not based off a comic book, the specials, but you can if someone told you that it was, you wouldn't be surprised because like honestly, if it wasn't for it being R-rated and a movie, this could have been a sitcom, in my opinion. This could have been a
Yeah.
sitcom on like something like WB back in the day, if or like even something for Showtime back then, or like if they wanted to keep it an R-rated comedy. So like there's an at-home feeling with the specials, and it
Oh
feels
yeah.
like a proper superhero universe. The parody is funny, the jokes are funny. I like even some of the
So
characters who are assholes in the film. I was kind of like they're incredibly entertaining. They're incredibly and you can see the
I think
shades
the
of.
only one that I like personally like really disliked was Amok.
Oh no, no,
Like I think he was just a little too douchey for my taste.
oh no, no, I get that. What's funny? On some level, you can kind of argue he's like a super, super, super unhinged precursor to Rocket and Peacemaker. Just that one teammate that's so like pushing it. They're pushing it, but
Yeah, I would say though, like Rocket and Peacemaker, they definitely have a heart of gold though. Versus he definitely does not. Not to me, and he's like, I don't like. I don't think there's any world where Rocket or Peacemaker would whether I'm not even sure if he was joking or serious about raping dogs.
oh no, no, that joke, in my opinion, I do think that was a genuine because like this thing,
It
I
was
there's
like
also I wonder if James Gunn meant this as intentional commentary. In the 90s, there was these edgelord comics, and that's what really kind of picked off. Really started Image Comics, really. I have a lot of respect to Image and while some of the founders of Image Comics in the 90s are kind of assholes, when stuff at Image started, like stuff like Spawn, Young Blood, Gen 13, they were made by so many different creators from who left Marvel. In the 90s, there was this huge trend of like creating R-rated, edgy comics of people who hated the traditional superheroes. So like they looked a certain way. And with Amok, I felt like he was not a comic, but he felt like a parody of try hard superhero fans who love dark, edgy jokes. They love, being sex pests or stupid or like sexist. But to me, the more he kept talking throughout the film, I'm like, okay, they say in the film he was a supervillain when he was a teenager, went to juvie, then got out on a probation program, and he's forced to be a superhero. And seemingly, he has these. When they say his powers is antimatter, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, if this is the real scientific concept of antimatter, this man should be a god. The only reason why he's trying to be nice is because he wants to be nice, but he's such an asshole. He's ashamed to say he wants to be a good person. So that's the way I took him, even though
Okay.
he keeps saying annoying stuff throughout the entire film, because it actually kind of foreshadows some stuff with Rob Lowe's character. He's not a good person either. So the
Yeah.
fact that they were good friends to a point kind of showed where Amok was going. You know what I mean? So I took it as like he's just an edgelord having a terrible phase. He
Yeah.
could be a calm, a good person,
Yeah.
but I get what you mean though. Like there are certain jokes. You know what's funny? This is really is represent a great representation of 2000. Yeah, I mean, like there are certain comedies back then in this time. You could say terribly wild stuff like that. I mean, I
Oh yeah.
personally, I think it's funny, but if someone says they hate that joke, I don't get mad
Yeah.
about it. You know what I mean?
Something that I found out interesting with this is like I was honestly surprised by how few jokes that do not age well there were. Like
Oh no, no, this
there was
there was a
literally
lot of
only a
like
few
four or three.
jokes where I'm like yeah, I do not like that.
It's
Like
this.
um
I guess exactly what you mean because there are moments where it feels like James is trying to restrain himself. Like trust me, like there are many edgy jokes. There are some edgy jokes in this that are clearly very like risque and pushing it even back then. He did pull back in contrast to most trauma films. You know what I mean?
oh yeah, trauma though is something where like they definitely there's a lot of jokes in trauma films that do not age well, but when you actually pay attention to what you're watching with trauma films, uh, um, a lot of times they actually have a pretty progressive message to them.
Oh yeah.
And like everything I know of Lloyd Kaufman, he seems like a pretty progressive person, and I love that. Um, I think with and with this, it's like this film is like pretty decently progressive for the or the early 2000s, particularly in its representation of gay people. Like
Yeah.
yeah, there's some jokes as there's characters who don't want to look like they're gay, even though there's no actual look that is gay, but like it was never a joke. The characters who are gay
Yeah.
like like I don't remember what her name is, but
Power
the
Girl.
yeah,
It's not
something
Power
like
Girl, like
that.
Miss Flower. So it's let me double check.
The lady who like takes care of the alien, she like she mentions how she's gay, she's out, and like another character gets annoyed by that because he's into her, but like it's never there's no joke of it being bad that she's that, which I think is pretty progressive for the time.
Oh yeah, sorry, Power Chick. That's her name. Yeah, Power Chick. And yeah. You know, it's funny because up until I'm trying to think in James's career, Peacemaker was probably the most he's ever written about characters who are gay and bi. Yeah, I mean, like out of Bio and Peacemaker, she's gay. Her ex girlfriend slash wife is gay. Peacemaker, Christopher Smith is bisexual.
It's
So like that was like his most famous mainstream
yeah,
LGBT featuring
that's
project.
like that's definitely like of stuff that was released that he that is the most it's like doing trying to actually be progressive. But even like back with the with Scooby-Doo, he wanted Velma and Daphne to be gay, and I don't think it was gonna be as a joke thing. I think he just was like he just did want that representation in there.
Oh yeah, no, especially back when in regards to Scooby Doo, Warner Bros. Wanted it to be either rated R or PG-13, and then the only reason why they pivoted to doing PG, even though they filmed it to be edgy, was because I mean for obvious reasons they're like we don't want families to bitch and
You
moan
know,
because it is a toy brand, it's a family friendly front brand, so let's just focus on making this PG and edgy, a hard PG, but maybe we'll go back to do something more with that in the future. On your
what one thing in particular I thought was interesting as I was watching this is in relation to the original version of the Scooby-Doo script is there are there's a particular kind of joke in this that he also used in that original R-rated Scooby-Doo script, which was and he uses multiple times in this, which was about out things eating babies,
Yeah.
which is such a wild joke to make. Um, and I just thought it was interesting how he was planned using that again and in the Scooby Doo script.
Mm. Oh, I get. It's funny. I have a lot of respect for James Gunn as a writer and some stuff. There are moments where I do think he never uses like every writer has a bag of tricks. So of course there are times where certain things come back in and out. Because even like Superman 2025, there are times where I'm like, this feels like something from Guardians. Like there are certain jokes or certain like visual stuff where I'm like, okay, you did this in Guardians. You're doing another version over here for DC. Okay, that makes sense.
Mhm.
Um, what the specials, interesting because like with Craig Mazin, he would end up writing a Scary Movie 3, and he also wrote and directed a superhero movie,
Mhm.
in 2008, 2009 when that came out. And it's funny because with this, because with superhero movie, I have some issues with that with some stuff, but as a parody film of the 2002 Spider-Man movie, it actually does a great job making,
Mhm.
copying
Oh
that.
yeah.
But with the specials, there's a lot of like this. I mean, I think I told you this feels like an R-rated Mystery Man movie, and I love it for that. Where it
Mhm.
feels it also kind of in a way feels like an R-rated episode of the Patrick Warburton Tech TV show.
Mhm.
You know what I
That
mean?
makes
That there's
sense.
just that vibe of like we're in a world of superheroes. It's treated like a job. The insane comic book, end of the world stuff happens off screen, but you're never bored because these people are just living their life and they're
Yeah.
talking about their feelings.
Which
They're
which
awkward,
is like even in like normal superhero stuff,
Yeah,
that's the stuff I find most interesting. And
yeah,
like there's a lot of people who think that the superhero films just be action. They should just be for the action lovers, but like the dialogue, character interactions, that's where you really get the depth
Mhm.
up in these films. And
Yeah,
like
yeah.
and without those, these superhero films would not be good.
Oh no, no, that's the thing. It depends. To me, it depends on character by character
Well,
basis. Like,
okay. I mean, like having if you were to have none of that,
mhm.
and you just had mindless
Oh no,
action,
yeah.
that would be a bad film.
Oh no, no, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like I'm not trying to say that people are wrong for wanting action in
Oh no,
superhero
no.
films.
Oh no, 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 no. I get that. I get that. And we have seen some comic book movies that have too much action. They forget to focus on the
Uh,
story. That has
to be
happened before.
honest, like one of the films where it's not a superhero film, but one of the films where I most found like the action to be mindless is the third Matrix film. Like that
Revolutions?
film, yeah. I think that was where particularly like in the scenes where they're fighting on the mechs X in the real world. I was taken out of it so much. I was like, okay, I this seems so out of nowhere.
Well, I mean, well, it's funny because a lot of people complain that Revolutions didn't have enough action because Reloaded had like so many fight scenes and more action in the trilogy than all the films combined.
But I
So there
think
were
like
some.
with like those, it's very hands-on action versus like in mechs, there's not a lot to connect to it.
Well, to be fair, I love Matrix Revolutions a lot. But to be fair, one of the biggest weaknesses in that film is that in the Battle of Zion, there are so many characters who are new, introduced and reloaded in the second film that we do not know about. And Neo, Trinity, and Morpheus, all the other major characters that we do care about,
Yeah.
they're in other places trying
Yeah,
to.
that definitely
So
also really hurt it to me. Like the
no,
fact that I wasn't like I these
it's
characters weren't people I cared about.
Oh no, no, no. It's like if Avengers Infinity War had the Battle of Wakanda be done with characters we didn't know. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like that's what it felt like. But I get what you mean. But like with I mean visually, like there are some movies where like um the spectacle is wonderful. Like like the spectacle is wonderful to look at visually, but because the characters we care about aren't in it as much, it can become just visual noise. But I get what you mean.
Mm.
But
Dude,
with hmm,
one thing in specials that
hmm,
that I'm like, part of me finds funny.
hmm.
Part of me is like, yeah, I don't like that because there's cause it's kind of a transphobic joke. Is at the beginning when we have when we have someone calling into the specials office
Oh yeah, yeah,
asking
yeah.
for nudes of a former member of the team, and like I find it funny because just because of how casually that scene plays out. That like in this world, it's just a normal thing to be to call a superhero team and be like, "Hey, can I get one of your members' nudes?" I think that's hilarious how casual that is.
Mhm.
When in reality that would be such a weird thing to do. But but like the fact that
Oh
actually
yeah,
the
Miss Invincible.
actual
Yeah, yeah.
like what was it? The punchline line of it is that oh, you shouldn't want those, not because it's creepy that you're doing this, but because the woman has a penis.
Well, the way I took it that she was lying, and she was trying to lie because she knew this. She thinks this guy is a transphobe, so she's like, "Let me say this thing to try turn him off of this creepy thing."
Mm,
You're right. It is kind of. I mean, it is a transphobic joke, but the way I took it, I'm like, "There's no way in hell Miss Invincible, this character, would even say that." You know what I mean? I never thought she was a transphobe. It just felt, and also knowing James Gunn and how often he likes to do sarcastic jokes, like when someone says something
mm.
sarcastically, I thought she was.
Yeah, it's just like
am I?
it was just something where I'm like, I'm very 50-50 on it because like I like
Yeah.
half of me is like, yeah, I don't love but the other half of me is like, it's so funny this idea that in this world that's just that is they act like that's just a normal thing to do,
Well, one thing
calling
that,
into an office like that.
oh no, but you know, it's funny. One thing they do in this film that, like, that even the boys or even some stuff in the comics in the Ultimate Universe did is they treated they're very much like, oh no, no, superheroes, they're like talent agents. They're like actors. It's all about
Mm.
getting that toy deal. It's all about getting good news in the press. They even like make fun of TMZ in a way. There's a superhero version of the
Oh yeah.
TMZ in this universe. So like a part of me was kind of like maybe the media, like the media people pleasing mentality of the superhero world
Yeah.
has fallen into such
I
uh
think like
like in such weird ways that they're so used to fans asking that because like the way
mm,
that scene starts, it's a funny joke or it's just like just a weird, it does feel like something from one of James Gunn's trauma days, just in terms of like the
mm,
idea of someone calling a superhero team and it's like, can I get nude photos of this member? Genuinely, I'm
yeah.
like, that's already an insane fucking thing that this is
Oh
happening.
yeah.
But
Like,
to me, that also did show how, because this world, this universe is a lived in
mhm,
universe, but it's also kind of shows how desensitized everyone is. Like superpowers are real, superhero battles are real, and everyone is just so obsessed with talking about superheroes like they're actors, like they're failing actors trying to get a job. You know what I mean? So, how I wouldn't be surprised if James Gunn overheard stuff like that in real life in the Hollywood, where someone's
yeah,
like actually
makes sense.
asking for revealing photos of an actor.
Makes
Like,
sense.
yeah,
I think like whereas this where this really differs from the from sign like the boys is like this, even though it makes fun of superhero stuff, it still feels like it's kind of a love letter to superhero
yes,
stuff
yes, yes, yeah, yeah, yeah,
versus sign like the boys
yeah.
feels like it hates superhero stuff.
Boy, oh, well, yeah, with the boys universe, the show is better
Yeah,
than the
like I
comic, but that comic, the comic by Garth Ennis, is Garth Ennis's pure hatred of the
yeah,
comic book industry and certain comic book storytelling. That is the source material of that
mhm.
universe is from hate.
Like
With
this. doesn't feel jaded, if that might be the right word of like or versus like a lot of things that make fun of superhero stuff nowadays very much feels like it comes from a place of hate.
Well, yeah. It's one of those things where like I feel like this does satire the right way for us
Mhm.
for the superhero genre because I love satires and I would love to have more superhero satires in general.
You know what this kind of feels like for sign I today. The
Mhm.
one of the only kinds of satires today that doesn't feel feels like super jaded to me is Seth Rogen's in the studio.
Yes,
It like that is making fun of things, but it also still feels like a love letter to Hollywood.
because it doesn't because even when okay you can have a character be jaded but not make the whole film be about let's attack this thing. Like I think
Yes.
it's one of the reasons why like Entourage, the studio, or even satires about any business or any genre. You can have characters be like this thing over here sucks, but you can have another character trying to fight for hope or something. Because even like with Nightbird, the character Nightbird in this film, like the was kind of like a fun little reference to Jubilee, in terms of like being the new
Mm.
member of the team, showing up, being young, and you're trying to impress. She's just genuine. Like I don't care about the PR thing. I don't care about. Like you guys are all kind like a lot of you guys are sex obsessed. A lot of you guys are fucking annoying. Some of you guys aren't even good friends. I just want to show up and help people, but we haven't done that. We're just sitting here and arguing. And like she represents the traditional wanting to help. And
Yeah.
then you get and what's funny is like the cast is really good. And Thomas Hayden Church I always loved as an actor. He's great in so many
Mhm.
different things. His acting in this is so great because not only does he have to basically show like a mascot type of like Superman type guy who's
Yeah.
constantly trying to be the right role model. You can also see when he says certain things, even if he believes it, he's starting to get tired because he knows for a fact that his friends are also going through things, and as a leader, he's not really. Strange enough, like they do acknowledge he's not a perfect person. No one in
Yeah.
this movie is perfect. They all have their own different flaws and baggage, and they don't shame them for it. Not really. They
Mhm.
don't. They don't. They don't like root for these characters to be embarrassed or to fail or to get hurt or anything. Because even with like with the cheating storyline and the breakup, you know, with Mrs. With Miss Invincible, yeah, she cheated on her husband because he was emotionally distant and wasn't being good. Not to defend or justify it, but then you can see she also legitimately feels bad, and she actually cries and she actually feels bad that she did it. And even when he says,
Yes.
"I know why you did it," I wasn't a good husband. It still hurts, but I wasn't a good husband. And
Yeah.
then I mean I think on some level I do like the fact that the resolution towards the end of the film is they have to become a family. Like they have to work things out together, just focus on being friends
Oh yeah.
first. And it doesn't feel forced. You know how like sometimes in movies or TV shows when characters make up, it just feels like the writer is rushing it. I do like the fact that in this movie they do realistically not drag things out, but they do like there's breathing room where the characters are just thinking about what to do next.
Yeah. Absolutely. One thing, other thing that I noticed is I think is a really cool little thing that I think that Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 references. So Minute Man, and which is the character James Gunn himself plays, is mentioned that how he would be useful to the team, and is if they had to have someone shrink down and go into a small contained space, ace where there is a nuke to disarm
Mm.
it.
Yeah.
I think that he kind of reused that idea with Baby Groot and Ego.
That was. I actually kind of missed that the first time I watched it, but yeah, that actually does make sense because James Gunn does love referencing not himself, but he does reference his past works in so many
Uh,
things he does. That does make sense. That's actually kind of funny.
oh
Um,
yeah,
it's funny, with this film, with the specials, I do think, like, it's the pacing is really good. I think it's very watchable. I think this is the type of comedy, type of not raunchy kind, but type of like old school kind of pushing it comedy. Like there are some offensive jokes in this. Even if
Mm.
I think they're funny, I don't necessarily think they're good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's one of the things where like, oh no. This is a perfect time capsule of the past. These type of
Oh yeah.
jokes should be in the 2000s. In 2000s comedies
This
that I love. Yeah.
this feels like it's the like it is the 2000s in a good way versus some things it's like, oh, this feels like the 2000s in a bad way.
Yeah. It's funny. I like, like there are some movies there are some comedies I watched growing up, and even at the time, I was kind of like, no, I know why Chris hated this film. Like, I know you haven't seen it, but like, the movie Dude, Where's My Car? I'm not sure if you've heard of it.
I've heard
It's
of
like,
that, yeah.
no, it's a very bizarre comedy that was on TV so much when I was a kid, and I would watch it. And the plot of it is actually not bad. The story is not a bad idea. It's just two idiots trying to find their car after blacking out the entire night. And they just go throughout LA encountering weird people trying to find the car. Now, in terms of offensive jokes from thousands, there's racist ones, homophobic ones, transphobic ones, and then there's but when I found out that that film got trashed on by critics, I was like, yeah, because it's not a super good movie, right?
Mhm.
But while it's not the worst movie in the world, there are times when I was watching it where I'm like, no, this could have been a legitimate classic if you actually scale back some of these awkward jokes, or like, because there are some jokes that happen where I'm like, okay, I can see what you're trying to do, and then it comes back, and it comes back, and it comes back, and I'm like, okay, it wasn't great the first time, it's not working again the second time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like, there are some times that are like that, where like, because even uh, even like regards to like homophobic jokes or whatever, if the whole point is that the homophobe is an idiot, I'm fine with that happening. You know what I mean? Like stuff like that happening. But if you're trying to, if you've put the punchline in the wrong order, it's just awkward. It's not funny for anyone.
Yeah.
Even homophobic people watching the film will be like, "Hey, we don't do that." Like, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like it's so like it's one of those things where like, but with this though, I don't feel like I think I could show this to friends of mine, and I think they could watch it
Yeah.
while also being like, whoa, but they wouldn't be like, they wouldn't turn off. You know what I mean? They would actually keep
Yeah.
watching, and it doesn't ruin the whole thing for me. This still feels like a fascinating original superhero movie on its own.
Yeah.
And what's funny is actually kind of in regards to James Gunn's career, when even though fuck Joss Whedon, he's not a good person, but like in regards to how James Gunn got into the MCU for Guardians 1, uh Kevin Feige would ask Joss, so what do you think about James Gunn? I know you know him. And James Gunn would be Joss Whedon was like, no man, go watch the specials. And he's like, what? The specials is one of the best superhero movies ever made. It's completely original. Go watch it. So, and that's Kevin Feige did watch it. He watched it, and he also watched some of James's other stuff. And I was like, oh, I want to meet him, because maybe if he can't do Guardians, I can get him for something else. So this film is a unique, fun timestamp in so many different ways. And I think it's great for crowds. Like if you have a bunch of friends and you want to watch it, because this movie is very short. It's an hour and 21 minutes without the credits, I think. It goes by so well. It feels like
Oh yeah.
a pod episode for an R-rated superhero show that never got the chance. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I this is a time where I highly doubt we would ever get like some kind of legacy sequel to this.
Yeah.
I would actually genuinely love if James Gunn were to return to this world. I think it would be a lot of fun to see
Yeah, yeah.
in present day. A there's I've seen so many people say they think that if Paramount actually ends up buying Warner Brothers, that James Gunn may leave just because he doesn't
The
want to be
politics.
a part of a propaganda engine. But and if he were to leave, I would not mind if you were to just go back to his own original superhero stuff,
Yeah.
like this, like Super, or even though he wasn't actually the person who wrote it, he was very involved. Brightburn, and like create his own full superhero universe. I think would be really cool if like obviously I don't want him to leave DC, but if he were to, oh, I think this would be a really good path for him.
Oh no, no, no. In regards to this potential hypothetical, because I have thought about it with some friends of mine and some other stuff. In regards to the Paramount Warner Brothers merger, I hope it doesn't go through. I hope it falls apart for many reasons. But let's say it does go through. I do wholeheartedly believe James would quit Warner Brothers and DC because the people who are at Paramount now. Um, if he was now, I know some people are kind of like, would he go to work with Marvel? No, no, no. Kevin Feige and James Gunn are huge friends. They have a lot of love and respect. Kevin would absolutely offer him to do another MCU movie. I think James would do that. But in regards
Oh
to
yeah,
running a superhero universe that's not Marvel or DC, James Gunn would have so many different offers from Universal, other studios, Lionsgate, whatever. And they would be like, do you want to do your original stuff with us over here? Now, in regards to resurrecting stuff like Super or the specials, I wholeheartedly believe that oh yeah, yeah, he could just do R-rated superhero stuff. Hell, he can even ask John Cena, come with me and I'll come with me for the specials part two or something. Like even
yeah,
to help make this more of a famous legacy sequel thing. That absolutely could happen. Because even when I was talking about this film with my brother and some friends of mine, and they asked me, "Do you think these characters could work in a comic book?" And I said, I think James would love for them to have a crossover comic. Because if someone told me that the specials were in the DC universe, like in the background behind the Teen Titans and the Metal Men and Doom Patrol, I could see them fit. But they have their history. Like they have their own unique history. Like even the fact that the team themselves were formed, I think in 1994. They said they were around for 6 years. Like so 1994 they've been around. So that's already like a fun little history thing. So yeah, I absolutely think this could come back in some way, and you can actually, you know, I do think a studio like um, Universal or someone else, they would be like, oh yeah, I just gotta put James Gunn for the director of James Gunn Guardians of the Galaxy. Give you $20 million to make an R-rated film, superhero film. Yeah, sure, go ahead. It'll make the money
yeah,
back in a weekend. Like it'll do well at the box office with your name attached because of how famous you are now. So they would have more faith in an
yeah.
R-rated superhero comedy now from him.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's and I think that would, especially if they really get this to be on like on a big streaming service, is this original film, particularly, a I think that doing a new one would bring a lot of new eyes to it.
Yeah,
It really sucks that this film only made $13,000 at the box office when it came out. Like that's incredibly low. Which is probably why nobody knows it exists.
yeah, yeah. This absolutely does deserve to blow up. I think because I actually looked up on YouTube beforehand to see who was talking about this. There was one person who did a fun review. There are some people sharing clips of the film. So there are people who are kind of aware about it, but there's no I even, I've made edits before in the past. I am thinking about making edits for this movie so people
Nice.
are aware that it exists because
Oh,
this could be awesome. But I would love, I mean, not a remake, but like if someone, I mean, I doubt it, but let's say James Gunn or someone connected to this film wanted to make something, I would wholeheartedly love to write or direct, or even just star in a movie like this.
oh
We
yeah,
do need R-rated
absolutely.
superhero comedies that are just about people living their life, just chilling,
Yeah,
just and
absolutely.
it's a lot of fun, and I do hope more people go check it out. Obviously, again, it's not on a big streaming service. You will have to pirate. I mean, unless of course something like Amazon can have DVD
Yeah.
copies of this, but um but yeah, this could be a lot. Yeah, but the specials deserve more fun. I mean, how even if like the amount of people that are in this
Oh
is
yeah.
interesting.
There's
Like, there's a lot of famous people that are in this. I
absolutely.
mean, so I mean, how Judy
And I
Greer, like
think
she, Thomas Hayden Church, like even like uh I forget her name, but the actress who played Sabrina in the
Yeah.
90s, Sabrina the Teenage Witch, she shows up for like one moment. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Melissa Joan Hart, I think
And
that's her
so
name.
many. Yeah, I think that's her name too. And so many great people in this. Is and like I think there's some the powers are really unique. I really like the powers that ours we get in it. And my and I mentioned this yesterday, but my favorite character is definitely Deadly Girl. Earl.
Yes,
I really
yes.
liked her personality and her look. Look, and I think that she has a cool power set of being able to enter the realm of the dead. Then like the new girl on the team as well. Like I think
Mhm.
that's a really unique power, but what and like it's really ridiculous power, but it would be but it's a limitless power. That's really cool.
Yeah, yeah, I thought it was cool too. Like, you know, what's funny? Like, with all these powers, they do make them because they do say that they're C-list superhero team. They're not the famous ones.
Yeah,
They're
they
almost
said the
D-list.
sixth or seventh most famous superhero team or
Yeah,
something
and
like
what's
that.
funny is like their powers are effective for battle, but they're not like gods. So you can actually see where, assuming in a superpower hierarchy of like, oh, this power here, because even with Thomas Hayden Church's character of the Strobe, he kind of has like this Star Trek Superman like feel, but I can easily believe there are people way way stronger than him, or how even with his
Oh
friend the Flash parody, a Zip Boy, a speedster
yeah.
who can move so fast to the power of editing, just just of like he just turns his head and all of a sudden he's half across the room. I'm like that. That was a fun low budget thing to do,
Oh
where like they
yeah.
just show him hopping around because a cut was made in the camera.
Oh yeah. It's great. This I think this film really does deserve more eyes on it because it is such a genuine and fun time. I think there's not really much else to talk about this one. So I think that we can move on
Yeah,
to
the spirit. Yeah.
Spirit.
Mhm.
It, I really liked the Spirit as well. Well, I the specials I think I like more, but like I still found the Spirit to be a lot of fun on and like I love the vibe and look of it. Like I feel like this is like is more like what quote unquote dark serious is comics are than what most movies portray as dark serious comics serious stuff of like I like this is like side where it's like not actually dark and serious, but it's this very goofy, over the top version of that.
I don't know. That's the thing with Frank Miller. He's had a long career writing and drawing, and when it comes to like some of his dark, gritty books. Now with Daredevil, his Daredevil books, they're dark and serious like an old action movie. But with stuff like Sin City, or even like some comics like later on in the Dark Knight Frank Miller universe, he does write the seriousness into the point of being funny. Like there are times where even some write, but there are times where some fans would go, "This is so ridiculous. I'm tuning out. I can't take this seriously because it just feels over the top." But with Frank Miller being Frank Miller, I know on some level it's intentional. Now with this
And you
movie,
know,
it's a
I find interesting with like the fact that it is so clearly a comedy, and it's so clear that it was intentionally a comedy. At least to me, it seems very clearly intentionally a comedy. It's not listed as a comedy anywhere.
that's the problem. Okay, this is the
That's
biggest
the
problem.
weird thing to me.
The marketing of the film marketed it as like a as a superhero noir that was playing it straight. So when critics and audiences went into this and all these jokes were happening, there were some people going like, I was expecting a comedy, and B, I don't think you're that funny. So that's why there was a lot of backlash, because there are some critics who are like, no, this is trying to be campy on purpose, but I'm not laughing at these jokes. And I don't know when the joke starts and when the joke ends. This movie, okay, I have issues with this movie. I don't think it's a super terrible film or anything, because
Mhm.
there are some people who put this on. It's one of those things where, like, if someone says they like it, I understand. If someone says they don't like it, I also understand. You know what I mean? But like, this movie's a fascinating experiment because it's kind of like the first superhero movie directed by a comic book writer and artist. And there's a lot of interesting things with the legacy of this character, because Frank Miller didn't invent the spirit.
Mhm.
And when he described this film, he was like, no. I love Will Eisner. I love the Spirit comic book. Will Eisner is dead. He passed away a few years ago. I'm presenting my version in my Frank Miller style of the character. So that's why he really reinvented the look. Because in the comics, the Spirit wears a blue suit. In this movie, he's black because it helps the noir feel. He's wearing black, and he combined certain things. He combined one villain, Doctor Cobra, who's the one that killed him originally and accidentally revived him with this serum in the comics. He combined Doctor Cobra with the octopus, and even the octopus. Okay, it's like, I've read some Spirit comics because when this movie came out in 2008, my brother and I was like, oh yeah, let's try to get into this thing. It's not a famous superhero, but let's try to get into it. I love the octopus in this movie than the comics, because in the comics, I told you, he's literally just a man covered in shadow, and you only see his gloves. He's off screen. He's like Claw from Inspector Gadget. You do not see him at all. So when you got Samuel Jackson, one of the best actors in the world, for the octopus, you have to show him. And I do like the fact that he's basically just the Joker. He's just insane. And Samuel Jackson is amazing in this
Oh
movie.
yeah.
And I wish, if anyone's gonna watch The Spirit, watch it for his performance, because it's incredible.
Oh
It's
yeah.
the best part of the movie. He sells the comedy. He sells everything. He's funny. He's
Oh yeah.
incredibly funny.
Absolutely. I think he really is so good in this. I really enjoyed him. I also really enjoyed the spirit himself.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
thought like I thought he did a really good job with what he was given as well. And he had a lot of great humor. Honestly, like I don't think there was any character in the film where I like actually disliked them. I thought everybody was fun to watch. Actually, there were definitely some characters who I was like wasn't my favorite. I didn't care that much about the police commissioner. Sure,
Oh
he
no.
he didn't seem like a super interesting
Well, no,
character, but
that's the thing, because like, even I like the actor though. I forget his name, but I like the actor who plays the commissioner. But I do think, because what's funny is, because this movie it does a parody of a lot. Because even like when I was first watching the film back in 2008 as a kid, I was kind of like, wait a minute, so all these women are constantly on him. Then I read the books and I'm like, oh, okay, it really was like that. So Frank was making fun of that. Okay. But they even do the love triangle, because because Ellen Dolan, played by Sarah Paulson, she's the lady in the morgue. She
Mhm.
loves him, all that stuff. And then of course, Eva Mendes plays Saint Seraph, who's Catwoman, like in the comics. And I felt Eva Mendes, she was having an awesome time as
Oh yeah.
the pseudo Catwoman. And I do think, if I have any, I mean, I have some issues with the film, but I think my only real issues, there are times where I'm like, okay, Frank, I think the plot and the story would be better if you
Mhm.
didn't do the love triangle. That you could have her crush on, you can have Ellen crush on the spirit, but you don't, because it's one of those things where, like, in
Yeah.
regards to Gabriel, Mock, I think his name Mock or Matt, he's a great
Mhm.
actor. Regardless of, there are some people who hate his performance of this. I actually liked it. I thought he sold me that he was a noir superhero,
Yeah.
over the top, over dramatic. kind of crazy, kind of smart, kind of not. He's wishy-washy in the sense of he feels like a comic book character
Mhm.
whose writing is all over the place. Like it's that's the thing, because this is one of those movies where if this was more of a comedy, if this was marketed as comedy, if they made this more funny and made it, I think more people would have been in on the joke. Because I think that's one thing.
Yeah.
It's one of the things where like the identity of this movie is so confusing to people, they get lost. They're like, I don't know what this is trying to do. Because
Mhm.
and also another thing, Frank Miller kind of did a lot of bold changes to the source material that we could talk about. But even the fact that like they say the spirit has been a superhero for 3 years. They say that his origin in this movie is not explained until an hour in, which I'm like, yeah, that's a bold risk to do, because
Yeah.
you didn't really know this character until this movie, really, right?
Mhm.
So like a lot of people didn't. So to be like, oh yeah, for this guy's first superhero movie, his outing, we're not going to explain him for an hour into the movie. He's just a guy with powers until you get the reveal of his backstory.
Oh yeah. Now, one character in this is I'm very much wondering about out them since you said you've read a bit of the comics. Is I'm wondering if you can tell me about is like Lorelai. This woman that he sees whenever he's like near death or knocked out, and they don't explain the character at all in the film.
No, okay, so I can tell you because I remember her. Okay, I had to double check because I've seen the comic that she was in because it was online. I was like, when I back 2008, I was reading it, and I'm like, okay, so Lorelei Rocks, that's her name. And in the comic, she has this ability to mesmerize men. She's she's a hypnotic woman. I guess you can argue she's like a very, very pseudo poison ivy, but I had to double check some stuff this morning. She only had really one comic appearance in 1947.
Huh,
So Frank Miller
that's
took this
interesting.
character and he completely reinvented her. They call her the Angel of Death. Now, remember one of the cops that approached that's with the spirit, and they go to the sale yard, and they said that siren can only talk to cops and sailors, and the spirit knows it's Lorelei, and then the spirit as a character, he doesn't have a healing factor, but in this movie he does.
Mhm.
Frank Miller turned the spirit into his version of Deadpool. How Deadpool is stalked by Lady Death
Yeah.
in the comics, how Deadpool has a healing factor. Like he took Lorelei and was like, let me turn you into my version of Death from the Marvel
Mhm.
universe. And
And like
it is bizarre because when you watch the film, you're like, how the like, because especially when like her introduction is a minute into the film and she's talking to Denny, the spirit, slash to us, the camera, to the audience. And you're like, who is this? Right? It's like,
they just never explain.
no.
It's
I think
like
that's
it's wild.
no. There's a lot of hmm?
Interestingly, though, you mentioned that her power in the comic is the is being able to hypnotize people. I kind of wonder if they gave that power to Sans Serif, if in this, because she tells people to kill themselves and they just do it.
Yeah, that's the thing. Because even like with her in the comics, she's kind of like a master disguise. She's an emotionally manipulative, whatever. But okay, so with the spirit comics, from what I've read, if I had to describe them, they're like it's like a detective story, but there's also
Mhm.
some metaphorical stuff, and there's some like like a running trope with the spirit in the old school comics, and even some recent reboots. Like a very underrated comic book company is Dynamite Entertainment. So like a couple years ago, they had a huge relaunch of the character, and they had new writers retell and do their own version of it. They still keep this trend that the spirit's weakness is women he's attracted to. They lie to him, he falls for their lies, whatever, stuff like that. And you can see in this movie, he whenever there's a gorgeous woman, he kind of just lets them ruin his life on purpose. It's actually it's actually really funny. But no,
Was that why he locked the door on the female cop op early in the film? He locked the door so she couldn't get out as he went to go after the octopus.
Well,
He
it's
didn't want her to deal to ruin his life.
no, because that's the thing. Because like they do this thing where like because the commissioner in this movie is like, you're a womanizer. You fucking all these women go after you, and you take advantage of them. And I'm like, not really, because he's not doing one night stands. He's not trying to take their money or anything. The problem is in the comic they make you seem like ever since he died, I guess there's like an aura about him, so that they know that there's a mystical thing about him, and the with Will Eisner and other people who wrote in the Spirit comics, they treat it like a sitcom of like women are trying to be with him, he falls for them, and he doesn't like the amount of female villains who get the drop on him. Like even in the film, like in the comic, where Silken Floss walks up to him, kisses him, and injects him. That alone is a reference to many comics because she not only is she the octopus's accomplice and science helper, she's always drugging the spirit and she's always tying him up. Like it's weird. Like this is the strange part is that this movie, while it looks like a Frank Miller comic book, while Frank Miller made this movie look and feel like his world, the amount of love he has for the Will Eisner Spirit comics is evident. The amount of references he put in this, I can feel it. Like it's in so many different things. I think the problem is that like, you know, this is like his second film. Okay. He has a credit for Sin City because Robert Rodriguez was like, I'm directing your panels for the comic. You're on set with me. You've helped me with some stuff. I'm going to credit you as director. And Robert Rodriguez actually got into a fight with the Directors Guild of America because they were like, he's not a real director. How can you convince us that he helped you direct this movie? And it's like, I want him to get director's credit. He helped me with the stuff. And it's like, but he's not a director. You're just using his panels from his book. And but with this movie, because I saw the behind the scenes making of, it's on YouTube if anyone's interested. There's a featurette of the cast and crew being interviewed in regards to working with Frank Miller. Everyone had a blast on this. Like, even if this film is hated or not that good, Frank Miller wasn't an abusive director or anything. They clearly all had fun, and they all approached this as a play, as a noir comedy. And I think the problem is, it's just visually when people were watching this movie in 2008, they weren't, they just like, I don't understand the intentions of this. There are movies that are like that, where they're like,
I think this movie would play a lot better these days than it did in 2008.
Well,
I think that this film feels like something that in this time period of superhero films, people would be like, this is kind of cool. Cool. This is very unique, and this feels like a lot of fun. Versus, I think in the early 2000s, they were still very much it's like everything has to be this standardized version of a superhero film.
Well, that's the thing, because people complain about superhero movies and shows now, but like, I mean, look, okay, there are some superhero movies from the 2000s that I love, but let's be honest, the 2000s comic book movies had a major identity crisis, and also they had to deal with so many different things, whether it be the studio, toys, like, okay, for example, I remember James Schamus, I think that's his name. He wrote the Ang Lee Hulk movie, and he was kind of like, we were working on that movie. The only comic movies that were out at the time in 2002 was Blade 2 and Spider-Man 1. And he says, so I'm watching Spider-Man 1 and I'm loving it. It's great. And I'm looking at the audiences, they're cheering, they're having fun, whatever. And I called up Ang Lee and I called up Universal and I said, we might be in trouble. And I was like, what do you mean? And it's like, we don't have enough action and we don't have enough jokes. Our Hulk film is serious because we're adapting the tragedy of what Bruce's father did. But I don't know how the marketing guys are going to do this. And Universal, like, I know exactly what we're going to do. We're going to do nothing but pure action marketing for the Hulk film and only show the action scenes. And Ang Lee was like, don't. And I was like, why? It's like, people are going to think this is going to be an action movie. This is not. It's a character film. I mean, it's going to be a character study. And then that Hulk film, I love it a lot. When that movie came out in June 2003, so many people were like, it's boring. It's not Spider-Man. There's not enough action. It's not hitting. And then um when like so many superhero films affected other films. You know what I mean? Because even like with the Fantastic Four film, the first one by Fox, Tim was directed by Tim Story. The how they treated Doom in that movie, Doctor Doom, played by Julian McMahon, who was a great actor.
Oh yeah.
Fox was just kind of like Fox just basically told him, okay, we're gonna treat you like Green Goblin because that Spider-Man
Mhm.
movie was a massive hit. But he's like, and Julian McMahon was a huge Doctor Doom fan, and he's like, no, he's the leader of a country. He has magic. He has this, and he's like, no, we're trying to be like Spider-Man. Spider-Man, the Spider-Man movie is the ultimate superhero movie of the 2000s. Everyone loves that movie.
Mhm.
We gotta try to be like Spider-Man. And then, like, there are times where like so many different movies in the 2000s, comic movies in the 2000s, you can see so many like ups and downs,
Mhm.
and it's one of those things where like there are times where people want that back, like the artistic expression, because I guess
Oh
people
yeah.
are
Like
worried with how bad Hollywood is, just as a system. People are worried that directors aren't getting their voices heard
mhm.
enough, especially with big IP films. And I'm like, well, we have Ryan Coogler with Black Panther. I hear his voice in the Black Panther movies. Like
Mhm.
James Gunn's Superman, that was clearly James Gunn. We
Yep.
still have those movies where the
Oh,
directors
absolutely.
are going off and being
I think
themselves.
I think with 2000 superhero films, what makes me miss them is there was this very
Mhm.
classic, hopeful, campy feel to them that I feel like we don't always get these
Oh
days.
no, no, I
And
understand that.
like to be honest, James Gunn's Superman movie really felt like a return to that, and
Well,
I really loved that about it.
wait,
The heck, that's the main reason why I actually like enjoy the Venom movies because
mhm.
they feel like 2000 superhero films.
Oh no, no, that was a no. With the Venom films, I liked them too. But I remember when the first Venom film came out, and in all the negative reviews, because it came out 2018, in all the negative reviews, they were like, "This would have been amazing in 2003." So many people kept saying this feels like a 2000s comic movie, and then people were using that as insults for Morbius and Madam Web, and even Craven the Hunter. And I understood what they meant because like uh Morbius and parts of Morbius and parts of Craven the Hunter reminded me of the Catwoman and Elektra movies in the sense of because with Elektra, I'm not sure if you've seen those yet. Have you?
I've seen Elektra. I've not seen Catwoman. And Elektra is something where I'm like, it's a bad superhero movie, but it's enjoyable as as if you just like view it as like a standard action movie from the 2000s.
Oh no, no, that's with the Elektra movie. I have some respect for some stuff, and I don't hate it. Like it's one of those things where like I don't know, I liked it as a kid. I liked parts of it, but with the Elektra movie, there's a strange identity with that movie. 'Cause, what's funny? A lot of girls and women love that film. Same with Catwoman. Like it's seen as a classic now. And it's not even just because of nostalgia. It's because those people who liked it back then grew up and they became adults. They have Twitter. I remember when Halle Berry, she was on Twitter like a few weeks ago, and she saw people saying they love Catwoman 2004, and she was like, "Where the fuck were all you bitches when I won a Razzie for this?" She was like, "What the fuck? Like this movie was a massive joke. Like she was legitimately shocked. Like, are you fucking with me?" Right? But there were some people like, "No, we love this movie. We think it's a serve."
Yeah.
Now with the Catwoman 2004 movie, um, it's not technically a comic book movie because all the characters in that movie are original. If there's no one from the comics of the DC universe, and the only reference to anything is a photo of Michelle Pfeiffer that implies that that movie is in the Burton universe. But other than that, like Halle Berry's character, her name is Patient Phillips. There is no Patient Phillips in the comics. So Warner Brothers took the name Catwoman and slapped it on an OC. So whenever people talk about this is a terrible comic movie, I'm like, well, yeah, because there is no comic book in this movie. It's just a
Mhm.
Catwoman movie. And they're like, wait, it's like dude, I'm trying to tell them this was supposed to be a Catwoman movie about Selena Kyle, but the script kept changing and changing, and they took out all the comic book stuff but we're like, no, we still want to make a movie of a sexy cat lady with powers. That's literally like that movie. It's
Mhm.
a fascinating anomaly, that
Yeah.
movie. Um,
Yeah.
but whenever people talk about like, oh, 2000 comic book movies are terrible, when they list Catwoman 2004, while there are some awkward jokes in that film, I'm like, that's a film that'll never get made again. Imagine if Marvel or DC announced, we're going to make a movie with no comic book characters, completely original, and we're going to take the
Oh,
name
yeah.
of a
They would
famous comic book character.
people would get so pissed. Which to be honest, I kind of wish we could get some original characters in like the live action of the Marvel or DC, just because I think there's like just like characters in the comics have to be introduced at some point. Not everything within these worlds in live action should have to be an adaptation. I think that sometimes someone could like make a movie within that universe, but it's about original character. I think that would be really cool. It'll never happen, but it would be really cool if they did.
Yeah, you know what's funny? I think the last time uh, any of these brands sincerely tried that was really with Coulson, because Coulson was the original character made up for the
Yeah.
movies. He became a thing, and then even after his death in Avengers, he got a TV show for Marvel TV on ABC. He was,
Yeah.
I think, the last uh, movie original character that got a lot of love to the point where he was put in Marvel Comics. Obviously, I mean, hell, Harley Quinn. Harley
Mm-hmm.
Quinn, one of the most famous DC characters of all time. People seem to forget she began as an original character in 1992 for an episode of Batman the Animated Series
Yeah.
before she blew up popularity. So we have original characters becoming beloved. John Diggle for the Arrowverse. Renee Montoya,
Mm-hmm.
again, another original
Oh
character
yeah,
from the
but
cartoon.
I mean, like particularly, like I want like a standalone movie, set in one of these universes, but but the main character is an original character,
Yeah,
not
I mean,
not a side character, the main character is an original character. I think that could be really cool to see. I don't think it'll ever happen because there's too many fans that are obsessed with the idea that everything has to be exactly the same as the comics.
it's funny. I think the only original character, I mean, he got a project recently, but he had to co-share with Simon Williams, Trevor Sider. He's an original character from Iron Man 3. And then they kept bringing it back because of Ben Kingsley. And then he got to be a co-lead in a Wonder Man TV show. Like that's the closest I can think
Yeah.
of a non-comic book character getting a lot of love recently.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think how I mean how he was only in the first two Venom films, but even in the character of Dan, he's original. He was with like Annie's love interest. Like
Yeah.
that's one thing, and
Oh, yeah. There's
it's
definitely
it,
like a lot of like original characters who are just like side characters, but like you don't get like and like you'll get like an original character that gets that later on
yeah,
gets a movie or TV show of their own, but like starting with their own TV show, or starting with their own movie.
yeah, yeah.
I think would be really cool, and really interesting to see happen, but it'll obviously never happen. One thing with like the spirit that I thought was really cool, which also we get also I think is kind of the case is in the specials as well, but they show a lot. They show, even though there's definitely they definitely have like attractions to men and in it female characters do get a lot of agency
Yeah.
in the and that's really nice. I particularly in the spirit. I think I think like there's this. It's really cool how yes, the characters are all over our main character, but they still are very much choosing everything of their own accord, or and they make a point in the spirit to be like have that um Eva Mendes and Scarlett Johansson have this scene where they're talking about where how you know Eva Mendes' character is showing a lot of agency. She's showing a lot of like just doing her own choices. And she talks to Scarlett Johansson's character, being like, hey, why are you just are you just like the octopus's girlfriend? And she's like, no, I this is a job. I like what I do. I understand I'm eye candy to him, but I'm choosing to do this. Is I'm gonna get a free degree out of it. I think that's really cool.
No, I it's funny with Frank Miller. Uh, you know, he's part of the group of comic book writers who made incredible inventive books in the 80s. Now, one of Frank Miller's critiques is that he doesn't know how to write women well. I think even comic fans love him can agree with that. With this movie, it's interesting that even with certain sexualized jokes, even with certain things, at the end of the day, the plot of this movie, the third act, is really decided by Sans Serif and Silk and Floss. Like those two really help, and even the fact the cop Morgenstern, that one female cop, she is helping the spirit a lot with plot information. Now most of
Oh
it's
yeah.
exposition, but she actually tells him certain things that are helpful because spirit is so busy being sidetracked by by the
Mm-hmm.
plot, by jokes, by whatever. So it's really bizarre that you know this actually might be the first like real Frank Miller project where he actually cared about the women as leads. I mean,
Oh yeah.
it's it's actually kind of interesting.
I thought that was such a good scene, that and them just talking about that and being like, I'm each both of them are very much choosing to do what they do. They're not being controlled. They're just like, I we're doing what we want to do, and that's I think that's really cool. You know, like when it comes to sexualization in the movies, is I don't think that sexualization is inherently bad, but it has to be something where it's of these people's own accord. They have to be able to decide for themselves. They have to have agency about it. You know that and like oh I mentioned to you, like I would have loved if there were some nice nudity in these two films. And I think these are films where you could absolutely have something like that, and it would feel like this is the character's choice. This is the actress's choice. They're very comfortable doing it, and they have the agency to do it. Um Particularly in a there's literally already a scene in the spirit where they could have shown something, and they just didn't.
Well, I mean, for PG-13, even Mendes
Yeah,
did show her
obviously.
back. Yeah, yeah. But what's with Spirit, it should have been rated R
Oh
because
yeah.
the entire time I'm watching, like to me, what really told me this movie should have been rated R is when the octopus kills a cop and throws their head. But because it's PG-13, you can't see the blood and you can't actually see the neck slit. And then even with like okay, some of the dialogue in this movie, when it's intentionally funny, it's funny. But
Mm-hmm.
like the fact that technically speaking, no one really swears into the spirit is actually kind of funny when you really think about it. They're not saying all hell, they say all heck a lot. And I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah,
You know.
this is a strange part. This is a strange thing. It's like Frank Miller dressed up a spirit comic book in his dark and gritty visuals, but he just didn't change the old school dialogue. And I think that's what really
Mm-hmm.
threw people off. I think that's what
You
gave
know,
more of a
one
disconnect.
thing I think for like having an R rating to this is, I think I personally would be like, I mainly wanted to have some nudity, the and versus I'm fine with the level of violence in it. mainly because I actually thought like they did really cool stuff with how they did the violence. Like the like when um the lady from Paris it stabs the spirit, and you see the red the knife being red in the back of his in his back. I thought that was really cool, and I think you would kind of lose something if they just did show blood normally in the normal way. In addition to that.
I can I can see that. I mean I think the only thing that I'm like I don't really like is the head. Is the head being
Oh
cut
yeah,
off. It
I
just yeah.
I just like I'm like I real I think like the like adding realistic like bloody stuff of would somehow take away from the stylization. I think there could have been a way that they could have done that head where there was some kind of blood, but keep it stylized. As
Oh no, no, I do.
like
I,
maybe even just like
oh
make
no,
the
no,
bottom of his head be red.
oh no, no, no,
And
no.
something like that, because like I
I,
just really like the look of how they did it.
oh no, no. I know you haven't seen Sin City, and I am excited to show you that in the future. In Sin City, it's not all red blood. To help reference the comic, they do things where like it's the blood is a white ink, like a white ink comic book page, and it looks visually cool. So if it wasn't R-rated, you know what's funny? When Danny gets shot in the flashback, it's white
Yeah,
blood that comes out of him. So there were moments where I thought to myself, why didn't you just have the blood of the head be white or another non-red
yeah,
color? Because we know in PG-13 gore,
mhm,
they're fine with any blood as long as it's not fully red.
yeah.
So like that's one of the things that kept throwing me off. Unless, of course, you know what's funny? Frank Miller plays the cop that gets decapitated. So it's like he intentionally wanted his own severed
So,
head to look odd in that
so,
shot.
uh, I think, like with the in regards to like language, like I think again, there's something so fun about the fact that they use stuff like darn to symbolize how it's this old timey thing, this noir thing. I think that's kind of cool. And like, so like, really to me, like the main thing I think with an R rating would be like just actually getting some nudity in it, and the I am like maybe that's weird of me to say, but but like that's definitely like the thing I'd be most interested in with an R rating for this. It's in like and like I also wish with the specials, so we could have gotten more with that because I think like comedy really is really where I feel like nudity fits best to me, to be honest. Like I think nudity works really well in comedy, a and so especially when the characters actually do have a lot of agency. So and they do in these films, so I think it would work really well. uh I hope that's not like super weird of me to say.
Oh no, it depends on it depends on I guess the motive like does it add to the story,
Yeah.
and there are some like for example the Deadpool trilogy.
uh,
I love those films a lot. My only complaint, in regards to some stuff with the Deadpool films, you can argue that it's not really pushing the rated R stuff outside of language. Because even the gore gets pulled back in the later films. And in
yeah.
regards to like sexual stuff, Wade Wilson makes sex jokes. There is no real sex. Like there is no sex anything after the first one. There's no real nudity after the first
Yeah.
one. And that's like
Like
one complaint I have. And then
I,
so like that's like the Deadpool films, they feel like unhinged, fun, chaos. I Live action Deadpool, in my opinion, is less annoying and better written than some Deadpool comics. However, with the Deadpool movies, there are moments where I'm like, this is a movie first and Deadpool comic second because there
Yeah.
are certain restraints with those films. And in regards to like nudity and sex in blockbusters, whether it be PG-13 or rated R, my there's a lot of people of different genders and different sexualities, men, women, non-binary, who have said there's a strange lack of sex in films, but yet it's on TV. I think that's what's really throwing people
Yeah.
off is when you can have nudity and sex scenes on TVMA shows, but not in movies. And the only thing I can think of is that there are some movie studios that are like the
Like
MPAA can be
they're just
so
so
annoying.
scared. They're just so scared of like what the MPAA is gonna do, what people are gonna complain about because people are prudish. I personally like. I understand people being like, I if saying like, does it add to the story? I personally think it doesn't even have to add to the story always. Is because like I say that because just like anything else in movies, it's there to be entertaining, and not everything else in movies has to be part of the story. So why does this one thing have to
Well,
always be part of the story?
I think it's there's just so many cultural factors, I think, outside of the entertainment industry, because there are some actors. Okay, let's be honest. There are some people in the industry who they like slut shaming. They claim to be they claim to be activists or pro whatever. Like and also like there are times when like it's weird because like I think there are some actors who do say, no, I would love to do a nude scene or a sex scene, but I can't yet because if I do it too early in my career, my stock as an actor will go down. Because there are some women who are like, oh no, I would love to do a nude scene, but if I do it too early and I show my tits too early, I'll lose all these jobs because a producer will be like, I
Which
finally
is
saw them.
so stupid.
No, 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 but no, but there are some
Mm.
actors who have been like there's some. I mean, even mostly in the 90s, 2000s, there were some women who did famous nude stuff or famous sex scenes. It went viral. It was part of the story, part of the script. It wasn't forced or anything. They had fun, and then 5 years later, Hollywood will go. You have no sex appeal. Be gone. You have none of these jobs. So there are some people who are afraid of that, and then you get some male actors who are doing sex scenes and they're showing their ass, but they're not showing their dick, and they want to, but they can't. And then there are times where like, and I remember when Chris Pine he did a sex scene in a movie. It was like a he said something interesting. I mean obviously it was a commentary on the gender stuff. He says my co-star Florence Pugh has been nude and has done sex scenes more than once. I'm naked in this for the first time and I'm full frontal. That got like 15 news stories. And I know the reason why is because I'm a man. And I'm not saying I'm not oppressed or anything, but don't I'm not saying that. I'm just kind of like, wow, we need to catch up because like not many male actors do this, do they? And he said this on like an interview, and Sally Field, who was next to him on the Grant Norton show, was like, well, yeah, because all of Hollywood wants to see tits, no one wants to see dick. That's just how it is. Like so, like there's a huge gender imbalance too, and there are some
Yeah.
actors who are like, I don't want to do it, and like so
I
it really
think though
depends on
as
the thing.
well. There's like this really weird thing where people think that like tits and dick are comparable when it's like no, that there's the what dick is more comparable to if a woman shows their lower half of like that and we also don't get a lot of that in film.
No,
The
and then
but
what's funny? There was in regards to like certain experiences with that. What's her name? There was this one actress, I forget her name, but she talked about the story, and she was like, "No, I showed my front, I showed my crotch, and they had to shave me." And I was like, "Well, why you gotta shave me?" And I was like, and they told me it costs more money to show bush.
mhm.
And she was like, "What?" I was like,
Is this
we get charged more money to
is
show
this
hair."
is this Sigourney Weaver in or in
Oh
Alien?
no, no, oh, no, not her. This wasn't her. This was
Because I remember there was a particularly big story about
but
how she wanted her bush to be shown on, and so they had to and but they then
That
have
that's
to recreate it digitally for a director's cut or something.
Oh, there's some myth and exaggeration stuff about that. It's one of those things where like someone made a comment and then they were like, "No, she doesn't have like it." It's weird, but like no, but like no, but there are some actors who have said, male or female, who have said, "Yeah, you get charged more for pubes for pubic hair." And they go like, "What?" And it's like it's a huge that's like even across to non-sexual content, but like there are some people who are like, no, for some reason movie studios get charged more money for that than any other part of the body. And I'm like, okay. And then like it's there's a lot of like politics and there's a lot of headaches. And I think like in regards to sexual content, nudity, this, that, whatever. As long as everyone is safe and happy, as long as everything's okay,
Yeah,
legal, sound approved. All right. And then there are some writers who admit who are like, I don't want to be. It's weird. It's like there's a paranoia, not a prude thing, but there's a paranoia of like, I'm legitimately worried that I might get the wrong types of jobs after. I might get like it's like I remember there were some writers who did nothing but sex comedies. They wrote sex comedies in 2000s and they said I couldn't get any job outside of it for a while and it was annoying. So I did whatever I could to not write about sex for a while because I wanted to write another genre and they wouldn't let me yet until I did another American Pie. That's so like there's a whole so many different factors, and I think there's some people in the industry that are worried about losing options. That's what I think it really comes down to at the end of the day, regardless of any what's on screen. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah. Oh, so I like I I want more nudity and superhero stuff. Like it's so weirdly clean everything with superhero stuff. And I think it's mainly because they think superhero stuff has to be for kids. It's like no, it doesn't always have to be for kids.
Well, I mean, this is the strange part. I remember back in the 2000s, you know, there were action movies that always kind of had sex scenes or whatever, or the or like with the James Bond franchise, he will always have a Bond girl to sleep with, and then later on they pulled back on that because it okay not it's one of those things where like a character can be sexist and have a lot of sex, like James Bond. He's kind of a misogynist in so many different films and books. That's one of his main flaws. He does view women as sexual objects, but depending on the story, he grows as a person, and he starts to see women as people. He falls in love, whatever. And then some of the producers later on were like, they were like, they were like, look, we've done everything. Like we've done everything shy of going R rated, which we're not going to do because we're James Bond. So let's pull back on the erotic side of that. And then, there are times where, again, they probably heard actresses complaining, I don't want to be a sex object. I want to be a real
Which
character. So
it's
I
kind
want
of
no sex
wild,
scene.
particularly James Bond being like, I don't we shouldn't have these be R rated. Like literally already I remember as a kid I was told a lot of the James Bond movies I wasn't allowed to watch because they were too mature,
Well, it's the fact
even though they were all like PG-13 or less.
well, no, it's the fact that like there was a lot of like cultural pushing. Like for example, one of the most famous James Bond movies is Octopussy, and one of the main characters in the movie, her name is literally Pussy Galore. Like she says, My name, nice to meet you, Mr. Bond. I'm Pussy Galore." And the first thing James Bond says is, "I must be dreaming." Like that's a joke.
Hmm.
It's kind of like I see a gorgeous woman calling herself Pussy. In and this movie came out 1960 or 70. Regardless of mainstream, like at the even that was pushing it. Like or like even like I remember in the 90s, one of the villains who kills men by crushing them with her thighs. Her last name is on a top, like so and so on a top, like I'm on top of you, like like there's so many sex puns or whatever. And I think there was a moment where some of them like were just kind of like, I I think we did everything creatively. They're like this, or like I don't know if I don't know what else can we do. That's so like it's weird. Like it. I mean,
I feel like at this point it would be actually really smart for the James Bond franchise to go R-rated. Less so for more sexualization, but just because the John Wick movies are so popular, or like a James Bond movie that feels kind of like a John Wick film would go really hard. People would love that.
well, that's the thing. It depends on you know. It's funny. People talk about like how Hollywood and the entertainment industry reacts to lots of trends or whatever. I mean, if you look at, we're in 2026. The history of just these last few years, if you want to define the 2020s in film and TV, we have to deal with so many different changes every like month, and even these writers and these movies can't keep up with everything. So like, there are times where being sexy is cool here or being cool over there. So just in regards to like sexual trends or like people people love hot celebrities, regardless male, female,
Well,
whatever. We all love hot celebrities, attractive celebrities. And then there are people who are worried like I've seen fans get worried that other fans are talking about people the wrong way, even in non-sexual ways. They're just kind of like, hey, don't, because obviously, unfortunately, we've seen so many people fetishized, whether it be for their race, their gender, their build, their eyes, their hair, whatever. There's unfortunately, I think, because of maybe not even porn culture, but like just like all like weird stuff. So many people are like, I don't want to say the wrong thing, I don't want to cross the wrong line, and I don't want to accidentally hurt anyone. So, in regards to like in regards to the specials and the spirit, I completely agree. Sex scenes or even some nudity would be fitting to the film's tone, and um, I do think there is room for that. Um, I do think that like maybe in a future project that could be done. Maybe you know what I mean? Like
yeah. Trying to think. Is there anything else about the spirit that you'd like to talk about?
with the spirit, there's a lot of like there's one thing I'll give the film credit for. I'm not sure if you're aware of this. But obviously back in the day of comics, there was a lot of like racial stereotypes. Even recently, that can still happen now and then.
Yeah.
In the comic, the Spirit, Will Eisner, he wanted to create a character for Black people, but the problem was he did in a kind of in a very racist way. He created a character called Ebony White. It was a black
Yeah.
kid named Ebony White, and he looks like a racist cartoon. And Frank Miller, while he loves those Spirit books, he was like, I am not adapting Ebony White. Ebony White is too now in the recent comics by Dynamite and Entertainment, they adapted Ebony White. They got rid of his racist look. They made him a real black character. And they even sometimes where some people just go, just call him Mr. White as a pun, or just rename him to something else. Don't call him Ebony White. That's already feels weird.
Mhm.
And with this movie, Frank Miller was like, "We're not going to do that. We're not going to do Ebony White. it feels like a character. This is a racist caricature that can only work in the 40s. Well, Eisner may have been a genius in the comic book industry, maybe have his time, but he was a white man, and his black
Mhm.
character, his token black character in this comic, is unadaptable for this movie. And I remember when Samuel Jackson, when he was in talks for this film, and he saw that he had to ask Frank Miller, look, if I'm gonna play Ebony White, and see, just make sure that, and then Frank went, no, 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 you're not playing, don't worry, I'm not using it. I want you for the octopus. It's like okay, just because I think Frank Miller was like, I do want some non-white people in this, however I can, and let me try to do something different, and so like the movie is not racist in any way. Yeah, I mean, because like some old school spirit comics are, because unfortunately that's the time it was,
I think like
and
the closest to possibly being considered racist is how pro cop it is.
it's one of those things where like it's funny. It's funny because the spirit does say early on in the film, "I'm not a cop," because technically speaking, he died as a cop and he became a superhero. And this is okay. Frank Miller loves writing superheroes that hate authority, like his Batman run. He hates the government. He hates cops. The only cop he likes is Jim Gordon, and Daredevil. Same thing doesn't really work with cops. He loves superheroes that are anti-government. It's like with this movie, he in the spirit comics, back in the old days, it wasn't, unfortunately, you could have well written pro cop stories and not worry about real life
Mm-hmm.
implications because of what privilege is. And also,
But
I'm sure white writers back then didn't even know what police brutality was as a concept. You know what I mean? So they didn't even think
yeah,
about it. And I remember when have you ever seen the movie Training Day?
I don't think I've seen that one. No,
No,
I've heard of
it's
it, but
oh, no,
I haven't seen it.
it's a great film, and and of course it's about a dirty cop played by Denzel Washington. It's about police corruption. Came out 2001, and the script was in development for a couple of years. And then somebody asked the main writer, David Ayer. They were like, "So how come this film took so long to get made?" And it's like, "I'll tell you, the amount of studio executives that told me we don't believe cops are corrupt." And they go, and I went, "What do you mean?" It's like, "We don't believe there are dirty cops." And there was like, and he was like, Rodney King. I was like, oh, well, no, like, like we know police brutality is real, but like we don't believe there are dirty cops that move drugs and do money stuff. And this is 1990 something. And he went, so that's why you don't want to do this movie. And he's like, yeah, we just don't believe people would buy it. And then there was a real life scandal where several cops were outed for drug dealing. And then Training Day got made. Like it took, like the David Ayer, who's a white guy who grew up in LA, who has seen like police brutality stuff. He was basically told by movie studio executives, "Look, we like the script, but like nobody wants to see dirty cops. They're not real." And which is a thing that was
Which
said in
is
the 90s.
which is such a wild thing because even if they weren't real, people love dirty cop stories.
As for like to be
Like
evil bad guys in film, yeah, and TV. So like that's when whenever people kind of
that's like a staple of like 70s crime films.
no, that's the thing. But like they for some reason
What?
he no. Again, he legitimately was kind of like I met with studio executives who were like, we don't think this will do anything good. We don't think any anti-cop films will do anything good. And like it's weird. Like it's it's so funny because like what's funny is the whole point of that film is that like Ethan Hawke he plays Ethan Hawke he plays a rookie and he's trying to impress his partner and his partner's a dirty cop and this he was ruining Ethan Hawke's day. And he's like, is everyone in LAPD like this? And Denzel Washington's like, the best cops are like this. And it's like, and then of course he has to deal with a bunch of crazy shit that happens. And Ethan Hawke is trying his hardest to be a good person, right? And it's a very simple story. It's a very good film, whatever. But the reason why it blew up, other than Denzel's performance winning the Oscar, is that was of 2001 was the first dirty cop movie of the century of this century. And then we got more films about bad cops, stuff like The Departed, stuff like this, that, whatever. But like, it was a trend to talk about bad cops in the 2000s. But then online on Twitter, so many of these fucking asshole Blue Lives Matter people, like these pro cop, like these racist pro cop people, were like, if you talk about bad cops and police corruption, you're woke. And I'm like, no, people were already doing this in unwoke times, like the
Yeah,
2000s.
you know
It's so weird. So like,
my 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 parents and particularly my dad really was definitely pro cop he's a very right-wing person and he had no problem with us watching movies growing up that had corrupt cops in it. We watched a lot of those because they're entertaining. It doesn't. He didn't care that they're having corrupt cops in them. He
Wait,
just cared that it was an action movie, and he would watch anything that was action under the sun.
that's that's. And I know, of course, you had a you and your dad didn't have great relationship, and of course I know
Mhm.
you two are very different politically, but but even again, like that's what I'm saying, like there were times where like this is how you know how bad things have got. There's a lot of racists, a lot of racist people who are like, if you critique cops and critique military, you critique white power, you critique white people, you critique the good things us white people do, and which to me you're basically admitting that this is all part of white supremacy. This is all part of. Remember, some
Yeah.
of the first cops were slave catchers, you know, and like so many people, like there's just so many insecure, pathetic racists, or even just insecure people who don't even know they're being racist, who are like, no, I'm not going to critique cops. I want to believe in this fantasy that they're there for me, even though I'm like, no, no, because some people seem to forget white cops kill white people too, but no one wants to say that because they don't want to admit that even they can be targeted for certain things. And like,
Mhm.
in regards to like the cop stuff in this movie, in the spirit, it's such a another weird part. Because again, I parts of this movie I like, parts of the movie I don't like. But in regards to the
Mhm.
story of this movie, the cops are fucking useless for like the first half of the movie,
Oh yeah.
and they only do like one useful thing
I,
in the action towards the end. And I'm like, it felt like Frank Miller was just trying to end it like that.
all right. Like, me bringing up the cops, like I'm like I don't think that the fact that is pro cop, it inherently makes the film
Mhm.
bad. But I did just very much notice how like very
Yeah,
much the film is
it's
like
very
it's very much trying to say
it's
cops are the good guys, whether they're useful or not. It very much is like cops are the good guys. Even as a kid, before he became the spirit, all our main characters like how dare you say the cops are bad?
no, it's there's such weird things because like you can tell this such the spirit the movie is based off a very old
Uh,
comic book world where like the it's copville. Like this movie takes place in Central City, but it's all these fucking cops and then
mhm.
maybe some reporters and random civilians, but like seemingly nothing, no one else cares about anything else in the city other than the spirit, the octopus, and cops. Like like the press is all
Yeah.
over that issue.
Uh, oh, moving on from like talking about the cops. One thing I thought I kept thinking that was really funny to me as we were watching it. Um, I feel like if this movie were made a today
Mhm.
in a more cynical, jaded time, I'm when he's having his whole speech about how this city is his love of and all of that at the beginning. I would I was like I feel like if this movie were made today, it would cut to him shoving his dick into a building.
Well, you know what's funny?
Like,
I don't think I've shown you the first teaser trailer, but the actual first teaser trailer for the Spirit is him jumping around on the city. But in the lines of dialogue in the first teaser trailer for the Spirit, you can watch it on YouTube. It's like a minute long. He says, "This, I love to say, the city is my mother and she is my lover." And it cuts to the title and I am her spirit. It's like no, because even like when I was first watching this movie with my brother back in 2008, and he's narrating, my brother, the first thing he said to me out loud was kind of like, "It sounds like he wants to fuck the city. Like, what the
yeah,
hell?"
it's
This
like it really does feel like that. And I feel like if the film had come out today, they would definitely have like that, like a that being a joke in the film that he's like actually sexually attracted to the city, in the buildings of the city. Like I feel like they absolutely would have done that if this film came out today.
Yeah, it's one of those things because Frank Miller, he loves doing like he loves talking about sex and all the stuff he does. Like he likes doing innuendos and stuff. So it's clearly in the spirit. This is a weird thing. The spirit himself as a person does not sexualize women. He sexualizes the city. He does all, which is actually kind of
Like, I really do think like there is a world where a version of this film would exist, is where like he's just walking down an alley, finds a building that there's just a small hole in the wall, and he just starts shoving his dick in it, and like they would have the he's half having pleasure from it, half in pain, just because it's like jagged bricks that are broken, so it's cutting him the whole time.
yeah. It's just one of those things where like yeah, but the
Yeah.
spirit is a fun um anomaly, and it's something I think should be watched because it is unique in a lot of ways. Um, I think this movie could have been better. You know what I mean? I do think it could have been better in some ways. There's stuff I would have changed personally, but it is a unique film. It kind of has a cult following. I think there's some people who do like this film. Um, some people kind of compare it to like the like a black and white Super Mario Brothers, but for comic movies. That's how they talk about it.
I can see that. Makes
But
sense.
but I see this. It is Frank Miller's vision. He had 100% creative control about a
Yeah,
lot,
makes sense.
and it was a wild shot. I think like the spirit is a wild shot of a movie, and I think more people like it over time.
Yeah.
And with the specials, again, it's a fun time capsule of the year 2000, and
Mhm.
it's incredibly heartfelt because at the end of the day, the specials really is about a just very very dysfunctional family trying to figure out what to do because it's essentially about like a divorce in a way between
Yeah.
between a married couple and then them just trying to figure out what to do. And
Oh
so
yeah.
like it's interesting. Like the specials I love a lot. Like I love that film. And then with the spirit,
Mhm.
I have respect for certain things like the
Yeah.
visuals, Samuel Jackson's incredible performance. Like
Yeah.
he is amazing in that.
One thing with like Samuel L. Jackson's performance, that and this is like the only thing in the film having to do with Samuel L. Jackson where I was like that came off a little weird. It was I I don't think that Samuel L. Jackson's body is meant for swimming scenes. Like that one, that scene just looks so weird. Seeing
Yeah.
Samuel L. Jackson in the water.
Oh, no. It's a no, because even that opening, like the first, I guess the reference to the fact that he is an octopus,
Mhm.
he
Oh yeah,
comes out of the water.
I
But
get that. It's just like it. Samuel L. Jackson's physicality does not match someone who's going to be going into the water.
yeah.
It's
Yeah,
like
but like
that was interesting. It was an interesting choice. Yeah. Um, I think we've talked about just about everything. Any of these two films. Is there any just final words you'd like to say before we end off this episode?
okay, with the specials and the spirit, if anyone is interested in watching them, watch it with friends. I think
Mhm.
it's they feel like films you could like do a fun movie night
Yeah.
with friends. The specials is more of an intentional the special feels more like a comedy from beginning to end. With the spirit, it's a comedy that shifts in and out of a detective noir. But I think the specials has better pacing because it's shorter. It's an hour and 20 minutes.
Mhm.
The spirit is an hour and 40 something minutes without credits.
Yeah.
So depending on your preference, I think you might like the specials more because it's
Uh-huh.
shorter. But at the end of the day, they're both wild comedic swings in the superhero genre, and you should check it out
Yeah.
for that at least.
Absolutely. All right. Well, the hell. Thank you, everyone, for listening. If you like this scale analysis, please give a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or a 5-star rating on Spotify. I'd love to hear your thoughts on these two films, so please let me know. If you'd like to listen more from me, please subscribe. Many more game analysis from me coming, so keep on the lookout. This again is your host, Smash Trey John, signing off.